CEO of the Centre for Countering Digital Hate, Imran Ahmed, joins me now. Thank you very much for this. Now, one of the big rhetorics, one of the big lines that our government seems to be tripping over itself to say in relation to this latest incident involving Sir David Amess has been the impact of online hate speech and the rhetoric, the way that we refer to each other online anonymity as well is another one. Now, of course, the internet is, some may say anyway, the diving off point for extremists' beliefs. So what can we really do about it?
Well, of course, it's no surprise that MPs who are devastated by the loss of Sir David Amess and themselves know that they face threats every day, that they face abuse, intimidation and threats of violence online, might turn their eye in the first instance to the potential that this was caused by the unfettered flow of extreme and vicious, negative, violent, intimidatory rhetoric online.
Yeah, I don't
but
think
it was the indications in this instance are that it was utterly predictable. It was that my understanding is from reading the Sun article that he was radicalized by watching, and stop me if we've heard this 1,000 times before, but Anjem Chowdhury videos on YouTube, when we could have said that 10 years ago and it would have been just the same. Now, just to say quickly, and let you, sorry to interrupt, just say very quickly, and then I'll let you crack on, don't worry. But obviously, we've just got to say this, you know, it's an ongoing case. Of course, the individual has not yet been charged. However, the police do say they believe it to be a terrorist offence. Now that's out of the way. Carry on. Thank you, loyally intervention. What I can say is that both are really symptoms of something which all of us accept, which is that the internet and social media in particular feels like an unregulated Wild West in which all sorts of rhetoric, which we might consider to be unacceptable in normal life, for example, the Islamist extremism, the ugly hatred that sits at the heart of Islamist extremism, or it is the kind of violent and intimidatory language that is anti-democratic and does such great damage to our ability to have an open discourse on politics and between politicians and the public on platforms such as Twitter and Instagram. And what they both come down to are platforms that simply aren't enforcing their own rules. Let me tell you something that happened last year. Last year, I was sent by a contact a series of videos on Instagram. They were execution videos by ISIS. And they said, is there anything you can do about this? I contacted the platforms. They did nothing. I contacted counterterrorism in both the UK and US. They were unable to get the platforms to do anything. I called the Sun newspaper. Within 26 minutes of the Sun having contacted Instagram, the entire network of jihadist propagandists on Instagram had been taken down. And it goes to show that these platforms are very resistant to taking any action, even against, the sorts of videos I was sent, they were horrifying. And we have these platforms that aren't really playing ball, which is why it is so urgent that we pass the online safety bill that will say that if they don't follow the basic rules that they themselves say they follow, their community standards, well, then they might be liable. And in the worst cases, in the kind of stuff where Islamist extremism is being allowed to flow unfettered on these platforms, someone might end up going to jail for it.
Yes, absolutely. Now, one of the big issues that is raising its head in light of this topic that we're talking about now is the removal of any online anonymity. Now, there are several instances I can think of where someone might need or certainly require that anonymity. Let's say, you know, a young gay person who's not out of the closet yet and might want to still maintain a profile on social media. A dissident in an authoritarian regime, for example, a woman undergoing some kind of domestic violence who needs an outlet. We could go on, OK? So, for me, the idea of simply removing any form of anonymity doesn't seem to quite work. What's your view on that? Would removing anonymity actually practically work? Should we do it?
No, I agree with you. On balance, if you look at the pros and the cons, and obviously there are pros to ending anonymity, which would be that you wouldn't be able to get people able to abuse with their sort of blue egg Twitter accounts, as they're called in the parlance, anonymously. There are tools available to people using those platforms so they don't receive notifications from people who have new accounts or who don't have profile figures, who don't have a registered email address with it. But then, I think on balance, people should be allowed to have private email accounts. But then in a democracy, for example, like the United Kingdom, where the prosecuting authorities require them to reveal who is behind an account, I think that there should be a mechanism which is protected by judges, and so an application has to be made for the revealing of personal data, that if someone is suspected of having committed a crime, that data is made available. And actually, that's been one of the bigger problems that law enforcement have faced, both in the UK and the US, that actually it's harder to get that information out of them than it should be.
Welcome to the GB News YouTube channel. You can watch us live 24 hours a day, catch up on your favourite shows, and join in the conversation in the comments below.
Don't forget to subscribe and you'll never miss any of our exclusive content.